Some outfits are designed to feminize a man's appearance, as homosexuals try to do, especially displaying the buttocks and genitals.
Oh, please.
Why? Because it makes it harder to tell the difference between a homosexual and a heterosexual man.
Oh, please.
Making homosexuals blend in.
I don't know if you guys remember this, but years and years ago, there's this big thing called Pillowgate, and Jehovah's Witnesses basically did a full 30-minute video on not making love to pillows for all intents and purposes. This sorry son of a bitch right here was the guy that had to deliver the talk. All right, check this out.
We have some of the most outstanding young men in the organization. We are grateful to Jehovah for you and want to commend you for how hard you've worked to meet the high requirements to serve here. There's a particular requirement that Jehovah expects of all who worship him that we want to discuss with you. At 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 16, he says, "You must be holy because I am holy."
Okay, so bear in mind that he's building up a justification for banning touching yourself. There is no justification for such a thing in the Bible because the Bible does not condemn it. When I was little, I was told that it's better to spill your seed in the belly of a whore than on the ground. I would venture to guess a lot of people probably heard that when they were little. Except that's completely fake. That is a fake verse. That isn't in the Bible. The closest the Bible comes to talking about it in any way, shape, or form is, God, I don't remember the guy's name, but basically in ancient Israel, if a guy died and his brother was still alive and of childbearing age, then he would basically sleep with his brother's wife to carry the line, basically, to give his brother a son, in effect. And there's a guy that kept sleeping with his brother's wife after his brother died, as if to produce a baby, but he kept pulling out at the end of it, so that he kept, so that he could continue to, go over there and hang out with her, if you will, to enjoy the ride. Had nothing to do with touching yourself. Nothing. God basically chastised him for pulling out. That was it. I don't even think it said better to spill your seed in the belly of a whore than on the ground. I don't think it even said that. Those verses were just made up whole cloth, to my knowledge. The closest it comes after that is to say that looking at someone with lust in your heart is like committing fornication with them. So basically, if you want to sleep with your neighbor and you think about sleeping with your neighbor all the time, then you pretty much have slept with your neighbor. But it never directly condemns fondling the twig and berries. It just doesn't happen. It's not opposed to that. You think people weren't fondling the old twig and berries back then? Of course they were. What do you think they had to do other than that? They had nothing to do. They had drugs and touching themselves. That's pretty much it. Anyway, let's listen to this sorry son of a bitch go into vivid detail about why touching yourself is wrong, even though it's incorrect detail.
So, what exactly does it mean to be holy?
Onan was the name. Yes, thank you. Onan.
It means to keep clean before Jehovah and not let sin or the world contaminate us. That's not easy for an imperfect man.
I see you telling me that you shouldn't let the world corrupt me. And I raise you, I'm not letting the world corrupt me. I'm doing exactly what God built into me. Distinct difference. The world did not invent touching yourself, okay? It was God that did that. He gave us arms that were long enough. I'm assuming he didn't want the T-Rex to do it, but we certainly can. He gave us the ability. Oh, I'm sure the T-Rex found another way anyway.
But it certainly isn't beyond us either. Jehovah expects us to imitate him to the best of our ability.
And who are you to say that Jehovah doesn't touch himself in the dead of night?
And love what's right and hate what's bad. Each of us has to daily work at keeping our conduct clean, according to Jehovah's standards in the Bible. If we don't, our service to him will become contaminated and won't please him. The governing body loves you and wants you.
You're not pleasuring God like a young man should, I guess. Okay.
To experience the great joy that comes from serving Jehovah with a clean conscience. They also want you to avoid the deep pain that comes with sinning against him.
I gotta tell you, man, I don't think there's any deep pain associated with fondling twig and berries, to be perfectly frank.
That's why we're going to share with you frank and specific counsel
Like, I think that's the exact opposite of what you feel when you fondle the old twig and berries.
related to matters of conduct in two areas. First, your personal habits, and second, your dealings with others. We'll see some dangers you need to keep on guard against in these areas, and then how you can keep your path clean. There is no reason to be embarrassed about what we're going to discuss.
There is a little bit if you're sitting there in front of a gigantic audience talking about it. Luckily for me, I'm listening to some other poor fool talk about it, so.
You need to understand these matters to keep clean before Jehovah and enjoy his blessing. To begin,
Enjoy his blessing.
let's see 3 ways in which Jehovah's Word helps you to keep your personal habits clean.
God, get over the euphemisms and just tell us about the pillows that you don't want people fondling already.
The first way you can do this is by avoiding tight-fitting clothes that can identify you with homosexuality.
Oh my God, dude. That can identify you with homosexuality. Bro, are you kidding me right now? Avoid tight-fitting clothes because those tight-fitting clothes could lead you down a path. God, dude, these people. By the way, the algorithm is hitting me hard right now, completely ignoring me. So I'd appreciate if you watch to the end of the video. Having increased watch time as a percentage and a raw number is what pushes the video further. Also check out my books, owenmorgan.com. All right, back to the video. People think that this is ridiculous, and it is, but I gotta tell you, when you go a certain period of time without, like, doing anything with anybody or whatever, it f***s your head up. Human beings are not made for that. It's funny sitting here listening to him talk about tight pants being dangerous to your immortal soul, but Jehovah's Witnesses, like, people who've been active before know how much that f***s your head up to go so long without doing anything with anybody, and understand why they're warning people against tight pants. You know, at a certain point, like, inanimate objects start to look like people or whatever.
What kind of clothes are we talking about? Some outfits are designed to feminize a man's appearance, as homosexuals try to do, especially displaying the buttocks and genitals.
Oh, please.
Why? Because it makes it harder to tell the difference between a homosexual and a heterosexual man,
Oh, please.
making homosexuals blend in.
So he's saying people wear tight pants. They were on a whole tight pants kick at the time, I remember. Toni Morris was leading the way on this. He's saying people wear tight pants because they want to make it so that gay people blend in more easily. Well, couldn't gay people just not wear tight pants? Is that not an option? If they wanted to blend in, like what? Gay people are literally just human beings. Are you aware of that?
So these clothes contribute to changing people's opinion of homosexuality because they come to see it as normal and acceptable.
Okay.
We know that you never intentionally promote that practice. But the question is, how would Jehovah view a man that serves him while dressed in a way that identifies him with homosexuality?
Why do you think tight pants are associated with being gay? They're not. People wear tight pants all the time. God, we haven't even gotten to the pillows yet. I can understand people saying certain things are associated with being gay. Like wearing, I don't know, pride pants or something. That's not what's happening, though. Tight pants are no more gay than they are straight. They're just pants.
A woman must not put on the clothing of a man, nor should a man wear the clothing of a woman.
Tight pants are clothing of women? I don't understand, like, what this obsession with tight pants is all about, where it came from. It's just, like, bizarre. Again, this was Toni Morris's doing largely. He went on a crusade, and it started working its way into, like, this anti-tight pants crusade. Started working its way into their kids' cartoons and shit.
For anyone doing so is detestable to Jehovah your God. So What does Jehovah think of styles of dress that make a man look more feminine?
Tight pants don't make men look feminine. What are you talking about?
Clearly, this is very displeasing to him. Does the way you dress show that you share his viewpoint? There's another factor to take into account. What effect could your dressing in this way have on your brothers and sisters?
If you are getting them a little too excited, then you could be responsible for their spiritual death, if you will. Totally.
These clothes are designed to sexually excite both men and women. Of course, it's not your fault if someone else decides to nurture bad thoughts, but you wouldn't want to spark a wrong desire in others or be responsible for making it harder for them to resist bad thoughts.
So you should be wearing burqas, actually, like full-blown, net across the eyes burqas, because it's somebody. If you get somebody excited, their death is your fault. I mean, their eternal death in Armageddon is your fault. Give it a rest, people, really. This is no different than blaming the victim when there's an assault.
You need to keep on guard is resisting the unclean habit of masturbation.
Oh boy, here we go.
The God's Love book explains that masturbation is the stroking or rubbing of the organs.
Boy, this guy drew the short straw, didn't he, to have to give this talk? Ugh, that's painful, bro.
Commonly resulting in an orgasm. So, does a person have to use their hands to masturbate?
Oh my god, dude. This guy drew the short straw straight up. Also, in the final version of this video, I'm probably going to be censoring a lot of this because I want it to be monetizer friendly. So yeah, sorry for the duck quacks.
For example, say a brother wears an undergarment that's so tight it rubs his penis as he moves around.
Okay, is that why you hate tight pants?
He gets aroused and even
I've never heard of this happening in my entire life ever, but okay, go on.
Is he? Yes, he is, because he's deliberately stimulating his
God, dude, imagine being this sorry son of a bitch that has to come out here and say all this stuff.
Even though he's not using his hands. Does there have to be an for it to be considered?
Jehovah's Witnesses have this whole, thing. There are a bunch of different words for different forms of love in Greek, I think, maybe? Agape love, which is like brotherly love, I think. And then there's porneia. That's a certain type of love, which basically amounts to lust. But what he's describing here is that form, which is porneia. And he's trying to, draw out and explain what that is. And I have to imagine, people could just look this up in Jehovah's Witness literature if they were really curious. I have to imagine he's doing this because it's relevant right now. Some dude got caught, probably at Bethel, at their little cult compound, doing this. And he felt that it was a relevant thing, what do you call it? It's a culturally relevant issue that needs to be discussed right now. Oh my God, dude, it is so painful. Why can't you just leave people alone and let them live their lives? Isn't that an option? Really?
Suppose a brother starts rubbing his against a pillow.
Ooh, boy.
He gets an erection, but stops before having an orgasm. Is he mad?
Yes?
Yes. Again, because he's deliberately stimulating himself.
God, it's so painful.
Whether he has an orgasm or not.
What an oddly specific thing to say, right? Why are they talking about that specifically? I don't understand. Who did this? And how do you know they did it? Did they admit it to you? Are they ashamed of it? Is that what happened? Did you walk in on them? What? I want to know. Why is this being discussed?
How about having an emission of at night?
No.
Maybe even after an erotic dream.
Oh my God, dude, it's so painful. No, that would not qualify.
Is that mad? No. Jehovah made that a part of a man's reproductive system, and it happens without any deliberate stimulation. But even so, when this happens to you, it would be good to examine whether you were dwelling on sexual thoughts before going to sleep.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, you're not supposed to think about anything questionable at all to any degree ever, basically. And if you do, you're failing. You're a failure. That is wild. Really. You're making people's lives miserable for no reason. Think about all the shit that people have to do and like consider on a daily basis just to quote unquote stay within Jehovah's good graces. Like, trust me, it's a lot. And it's such an incredible waste of time and energy. Just live your fucking life, people. Yeah, someone walked in on him. Yeah, maybe he was the guy. Maybe he was the pillow. Is that what it was? Maybe he's the pillow.
Would you have been sleeping in a position that stimulated you, such as with a blanket or pillow held tightly between your legs?
Can't even put a pillow between your legs now? Come on, man.
If you're honest with yourself about these matters, it will help you to avoid falling into unclean practices. What effect does masturbation have on a person's sacred service? 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1 explains what Jehovah expects of us.
Notice he's not pulling up any Bible verses to establish the idea that God hates fondling twig and berries, because there's no such verse, of course.
Therefore, since we have these promises, beloved ones, let us cleanse ourselves of every defilement of flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. So Jehovah wants us to cleanse ourselves of anything that defiles our spirit. In other words, anything that contaminates our mental attitude. Masturbation contaminates a man with selfishness. It weakens his self-control.
Wait, how? I don't understand. How does any of this work? What are you talking about? How is it selfish? How does it damage your self-control? I don't know what you're talking about.
And it makes him believe that sex doesn't have to be related to love. It also fills a Christian with guilt.
Oh my God, dude. These people are so fucking boring, really.
Trying to keep your service to Jehovah holy while under the influence of masturbation?
Under the influence, really, under the influence, as though it's a drug, like it's alcohol or something, like you're trying to drive when you're drunk, really.
It's like trying to climb a mountain with a large boulder that you're carrying. Until you free yourself of it, it can only hold you back.
I gotta be perfectly honest with you. When you don't do anything, when you are living the way that Jehovah's Witnesses want you to live, that's when the boulder is attached. That's when you can't think of anything else, okay? You really should not force yourself to be miserable like that. That's when the boulder is attached, really. Like, I'm saying that 100% seriously. You can't think of anything else. Anything.
What have you done to cultivate a deep disgust for this practice so as to keep yourself clean?
Oh, you have to cultivate a deep disgust for it. Okay, you can't just not do it.
Our third point, don't let yourself become contaminated with pornography.
Wow, I'm surprised that's the third point. I would have thought that'd be the first point. If you look at adult entertainment, you are basically, like, it's a disfellowshipping offense. It's the type of thing where you have basically just slept with another person, in effect, in their eyes. That's how bad it is.
Satan's world is in love with it in all its forms. But as you know, pornography in any form is not tolerated at Bethel.
Oh, that's right. This was an internal Bethel talk. This wasn't even public, I believe. I could be wrong. I think that this was intended specifically for the people that live on the cult compound, which means some sorry son of a bitch was walked in on while they were enjoying the company of a pillow. Now, here's my question. Is this guy the one that was loving the pillow, or is he the one that the governing body just didn't like and felt like putting through like a really hard situation?
What can you do to guard yourself against becoming contaminated with pornography? Even by accident? Take precautions to keep yourself as far away from its path as possible. Think of the following situation. While in the bathroom, a brother starts browsing
Oh boy, more situations. I love
through
it.
a list of recommended pictures and videos on a social media app on his phone. he comes across provocative pictures of men or women.
Okay. Of men or women? Go on.
Some may be topless and some may be nude. He doesn't tap on them, but he does keep looking and starts to masturbate.
Yes, that would be considered pornea.
Now, did this brother truly stumble upon pornography by accident? Or could it be that he was browsing in a place where he actually hoped to find something sexually arousing? Either way, he needs to examine himself honestly, don't you think?
I think that's what got him into this situation in the first place, right? Close examination.
Maybe it would be best for him not to use the internet while isolated from others. What precautions can you take to avoid such a situation?
Dude, these people are so fucking boring, honestly. I remember being this boring.
Could certain types of entertainment expose you to the contamination of pornography, even if they're not, strictly speaking, pornographic? Suppose a brother is watching a TV program for mature audiences that contains a sex scene.
You should never, ever be in that situation as a Jehovah's Witness. Rated R movies are almost a disfellowshipping offense. I believe they're a marking offense, which is one step below disfellowshipping, basically. It's reproval territory, reproof, where if somebody finds out you're watching rated R movies, you'll basically be cut off from friends and family, except for at the Kingdom Hall. And even then, people will just try to avoid you because they don't want it, they don't want it to rub off on them, basically. No pun intended. This is an example of Jehovah's Witnesses giving people a punishment for something that's just stupid and pointless, and it ruins their lives.
Now, the scene is shot from an angle so that you can't see the intimate parts of either person. But he replays it several times and gets aroused. Is he keeping himself clean from the influence of pornography?
The answer to this in their eyes would be no, he's not.
There may not be any visible nudity, but that scene is definitely designed to arouse the person viewing it, and that's why he's viewing it over and over. He needs to work on hating what is bad. What steps do you take to avoid entertainment that could lead you to pornography? Romans 6, verse 13 explains why we have to keep on guard in this matter. It says, "Neither go on presenting your bodies to sin as weapons of unrighteousness."
Okay, but I'm still not seeing the part that says you can't, fondle the old twig and berries. Where is that in there? I thought you were going to show us that verse. What is this one talking about?
"But present yourselves to God as those alive from the dead, also your bodies to God as weapons of righteousness." Did you notice that a person can present their body to sin, or they can present it to Jehovah, but not both at the same time?
Go on presenting your bodies to sin as weapons of unrighteousness, but present yourselves to God as those alive from the dead. I didn't notice that. It doesn't say they're mutually exclusive. You can do both. What are you talking about? These people are so completely full of shit. This is one of the problems. The verse basically said, don't present yourselves to sin, but present yourselves to God. It's a little thing where he says something like, did you notice it said they're mutually exclusive? It didn't say that. Those little things are what have led to a complete bastardization of what the Bible says in the first place. Those little things have led to an entirely warped, out of proportion religious belief that doesn't make any sense. It has no connection to reality whatsoever. Don't misrepresent the Bible like that.
If a Christian deliberately presents his eyes to pornography, any worship he renders to Jehovah, no matter how hard he works with the rest of his body, is no longer holy.
So all of the work that he's put into being a good person is null and void because he rubbed one out, is what I'm picking up. Is that what he's putting down?
Jehovah simply does not consent to share our hearts with pornography.
Oh my God, now it's a consent issue.
Does your heartfelt love for Jehovah move you to keep on guard and avoid disappointing him? Next, we'd like to examine with you 4 ways in which all of us have to keep on guard in our conduct with others. First, it's necessary to avoid flirting, whether the other person is single or married.
Well, how are you supposed to find a wife and or husband? You're not supposed to flirt? No, in all seriousness, they're not. I remember learning how to be a Jehovah's Witness. This is like part of the whole process. You're supposed to become friends with the person, like, your potential future wife. You become friends with her, and then you agree, or you speak with her, and you two work out an agreement to like go to the movies together with another person. Like, you're never alone, ever. And there pretty much isn't ever any flirting going on for the most part. You can kiss once quickly before you're married if you want, as long as you're like engaged or whatever, you're really serious, then you can kiss, I suppose. That's basically how it works.
Now, what would you describe as flirting? Put simply, it's treating someone as if you're interested in marriage when you're really not.
What? What are you talking about? People flirt all the time. Where did you get that definition? Are you just making shit up right now? Is this just like fabricated out of the ether? Flirting doesn't mean that it's like that there's no hope of anything. Is it just me?
How can you tell the difference between just displaying personal interest, pursuing an honorable courtship, and flirting? Well, a lot depends on what your intentions are. For example, a single brother compliments an outgoing single commuter sister on the way she dresses at work.
Commuter sister. I assume he's saying a female Jehovah's Witness visits the Kingdom Hall, and she's not really from that Kingdom Hall, so they don't see each other very often, and he compliments her dress. Okay?
On another occasion, he mentions her new hairstyle. From time to time, he sends her a text message to check that she
Having her phone number? That's real. You don't just get that shit.
arrived home safely. Is he just displaying personal interest? His comments go beyond being concerned for her well-being, don't they? He's even telling her that he finds her attractive. She would definitely be justified in concluding that he has romantic interest in her.
Just having her phone number is probably enough in Jehovah's Witness land. Yeah, you need a really good reason for having her phone number if she's from another congregation. You shouldn't be talking to her privately anyway. Like, if she's your age and she's single, or even if she's not, just if she's your age, and even not even then sometimes, then you should only ever be in conversations with multiple people present. That's kind of how they operate. You should never be physically alone. I mean, this whole thing was a lot easier when it was before cell phones were, or before texting was widespread. I remember back in 2006 when I was a Jehovah's Witness, it was before the iPhone. They had phones around, and there was texting, but people just didn't really do it as much. It was mostly just like direct calling because texting was expensive. It cost like 10 cents per text or something. But you wouldn't, even today, like really be in a text with her unless it was a group text and other people were like there to see what happened, honestly.
Is he flirting? If he's actually interested in a possible courtship, his actions may not be wrong.
That wasn't even flirting to see if she's okay. Do you know what flirting is? I mean, I figured that you did enough of it with the pillow to know, but I'm just like super confused by his interpretation of flirting. What do you think that is?
But if not, he would reasonably be viewed as flirting. Could persons of the same sex start to flirt?
Oh boy, here we go. Buckle up.
Consider a situation.
This is going to be a fucking whacked out situation, isn't it?
A group of single brothers has a meal together, and after most leave, two of them remain behind in the room drinking alcohol.
Okay, nothing wrong with that so far in Jehovah's Witness land. Go on.
At one point, one asks the other if he has ever woken up with any.
I don't know about you, but I've never sat there and discussed this with my boys. But okay, go on.
Their conversation starts to touch on sexual matters. Are they flirting?
No, not right now, they're not.
Their conversation can arouse sexual desires in them, even though they're of the same sex. This could easily lead to comments or curiosity about each other's bodies.
What the frick?
Don't deceive yourself thinking this could never happen. Keep in mind that alcohol tends to lower your inhibitions and can make thoughts that you'd normally suppress or view as repulsive seem acceptable.
I got to be completely 100% real with you guys right now. I've never gotten so drunk that I became gay. I was under the impression that being gay was something that you just are. You either are or you aren't. But so this guy apparently thinks that, like, alcohol will turn you gay? Possibly? Okay.
Even inviting. What if a sister is married? Should you feel you can be more affectionate with a married sister?
No, absolutely not. You shouldn't even be alone in a car with her, ever. You should never be in a situation where it's just you and her, under any circumstances. In Jehovah's Witness land, of course.
Than you would with one who's single. For example, a young single brother is adopted by a couple at Bethel, and he regularly spends time with them. The wife, who's 4 or 5 years older, hugs him affectionately in public and views him as her little brother.
Wow, he said that with... Yeah, he seemed kind of annoyed when he said that, didn't he? Is that just me?
He goes to their room frequently, even when the husband isn't there.
That's inappropriate.
And he feels comfortable talking to the sister, even about his problems.
Even about those? No way. Talking about problems? Jeez. Why doesn't he just take his clothes off already?
He claims they're like family. Is this appropriate?
Absolutely not. Not in Jehovah's Witness land.
No, this is dangerous. Neither one of them is immune to becoming emotionally attached to the person who is dedicating so much time and attention to them.
Even if the person is a little bit older than that, even if she's like 15 years older, it's still inappropriate in Jehovah's Witness land.
Of course, there is nothing wrong with becoming friends with more mature couples at Bethel, but keep in mind that a married person belongs to their mate. A sister's husband has the right to expect that he will be her closest friend and the only one giving her romantic attention. What if you're married? Being married does not give a brother permission to be overly affectionate with sisters other than his wife. You, too, need to be on guard to avoid even giving the impression of flirting.
That's why you're not supposed to be alone in a car with them, because it could give the impression. If it's possible that maybe, if there was a situation that could have, evolved to be one where, like, these two people slept together or had a conversation that was inappropriate, quote unquote, or whatever. If there's a situation like that where it could have happened feasibly, then they're at risk of being disfellowshipped. I can't help but notice, though, that does not apply to people who take advantage of children. The two-witness rule, I mean, things are a little bit different now, but not by much. The two-witness rule says there have to be 2 witnesses to the crime, or 2 victims. I don't know, like 20, 30 years ago, it was leading to a situation where people were taking advantage of the rule by abusing a kid in a congregation and then going to a different congregation when they were accused. Because if there aren't 2 witnesses or 2 victims, the elders can't say shit about it. It's like it never happened. So they go to a new congregation and they're completely in the clear. They do it again. They abuse again. And they keep moving from congregation to congregation doing that. Anyway, they've changed it a little bit to be where it can be 2 different situations, 2 different scenarios, like 2 different victims, rather than like a victim and a witness to the victimization. They also banned calling the police for a long time. I think that they've changed that also. The point is they don't have those same standards for people who take advantage of children. Conveniently, those situations have a high burden of proof, a high burden of evidence. But when it's 2 people that took a car ride together who are within 5 years of each other and like a different genders, they can be disfellowshipped for that. Seriously. If you're in a situation where it's feasible that it may have happened, you can be disfellowshipped for that. It's just like one more level of hypocrisy with Jehovah's Witnesses, you know? And it's like in the Elders Manual, they just updated it in 2022 maybe, or 2019, I don't remember, to say that it's a parent's absolute right to call the police on the abuser if they choose. There will be no consequences religiously, spiritually, or otherwise if they choose to call the police. Previously, there was, I think there was a mandate that they are not allowed to call the police. The elders explicitly and others are not allowed to. And they softened that to they're discouraged from doing so because it could bring reproach on Jehovah's name. It could make Jehovah's Witnesses look bad. But interestingly, the Elders Manual explicitly instructs elders to form a close tie to the local police in case there's a fire or there's a break-in or something. There should be 2 representatives from the congregation that go to the local police department and meet with the cops just to, you know, bring them donuts, talk to them, and become familiar in case their help is needed with a fire. But not with abuse victims. Again, double standard that exists in Jehovah's Witnesses. What if she gets stuck in the dryer? Would it be a sin then? Right. He's drawing out an awful lot of really specific situations, so.
What does Jehovah think of flirting? Go to Proverbs 12, verse 22, please. Lying lips are detestable to Jehovah, but those acting faithfully bring pleasure to him. Really, flirting is lying.
No, it's not. Do you know what flirting is? Has anybody ever flirted with you before?
Cruel and dangerous form of lying.
Flirting is a cruel and dangerous form of lying? What? What are you talking about?
Really, flirting is lying. It's a cruel and dangerous form of lying that disregards Jehovah's counsel about marriage. He hates it, so it's important for you to see it the same to remain holy.
Who the f told you that? Jehovah hates flirting? Where did you hear that? Show me the Bible verse. Which Bible verse says Jehovah hates flirting? This dude just pulled out a verse basically says lying is bad and then said flirting is lying. Really? This is what I'm talking about. Jehovah's Witnesses are so loose with their interpretations of things. They interpret themselves into a pretzel. It's honestly absurd. Oh my God, it's so painfully stupid, dude. I forgot about this video. It's so old now. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. I'm so sorry that this dude had to go through this. Sit up here and talk about sexting and stuff. That is painful. Tell me your thoughts.